Hi, I'm Alan Name. I'm a product manager at Amazon working on Amazon EKS. In this session, I'm going to talk about Amazon EKS Anywhere, which is a new offering that we announced this week at reInvent, which allows customers to run Kubernetes outside of AWS, including in their own data centers and on their own infrastructure, using the same consistent EKS experience. Now, before I jump into EKS Anywhere, let's add some context and talk a little bit about Amazon EKS. We started running Kubernetes for customers as a managed service about 2.5 years ago, due to a lot of demand from the rising popularity of Kubernetes. Our customers asked us for a managed Kubernetes experience, and we delivered it to them by providing them with EKS. Amazon EKS gives our customers the flexibility to start, run, scale Kubernetes applications on AWS or on premises. Amazon EKS runs upstream Kubernetes and is certified Kubernetes conformant so that you can easily migrate any standard Kubernetes application to EKS without needing to refactor your code. We run and support 4 versions of Kubernetes, giving our customers time to test and roll out upgrades. EKS provides our customers with a reliable, secure, and stable environment to run their mission-critical applications. Now, let's look at the variety of deployment options that we have available up till now. Over to the right is where we provide a fully managed experience. This is for both Kubernetes control plane and Kubernetes worker nodes. Offerings such as EKS running on AWS Fargate or managed node groups provide customers an experience where AWS manages both the control plane and worker nodes so that customers don't have to manage any of the infrastructure on their own. We provide a set of APIs that enable customers to upgrade their clusters, scale their infrastructure, and hand over the undifferentiated heavy lifting to AWS. Now, in the middle, customers can use EKS on EC2. For this deployment type, we'll manage the Kubernetes control plane, but customers still have some level of control over their EKS clusters and are responsible for their Kubernetes worker nodes for things like ECS instance patching and horizontal scaling. Now, over to the left is Amazon Outposts for customers that run on EKS clusters in their own data center on top of AWS managed infrastructure. In this scenario, we run and manage the EKS control plane in an AWS region. And the EKS worker node compute runs on the managed EC2 infrastructure on Outposts. This gives customers a highly managed service with the EKS control plane in the cloud, but compute infrastructure running on premises on Outposts. This is a very popular configuration that customers are using or eventually will want to use as they modernize their on-premises workloads. Customers use Amazon EKS to run and manage Kubernetes for applications on AWS. With Amazon EKS, customers can use Kubernetes for their containerized applications and take advantage of all the performance, scale, reliability, and availability of AWS. However, some customers have applications that need to run on premises due to regulatory, latency, data residency requirements, as well as requirements to leverage existing infrastructure investments. To do this, they have to create and operate Kubernetes clusters on premises using different tooling than their clusters on AWS, and maintain multiple vendor support agreements to ensure their open source software is up to date. Rather than spending their time innovating and deploying new features, customers have to allocate valuable resources to upgrade and patch their production on-premises Kubernetes clusters while ensuring continuity with minimal disruption. Customers want an easy way to manage their on-premises Kubernetes clusters without this added complexity and cost. To help our customers address these challenges, we made 2 announcements this week. The first announcement is the EKS distro, which is the same conformant upstream Kubernetes distribution used by Amazon EKS to create reliable and secure clusters. With the EKS distro, customers can rely on the same versions of Kubernetes and its dependencies deployed by Amazon EKS, with the latest updates and extended security patching support. The EKS distro is open source and available now for customers and partners to use for their Kubernetes environments. The second announcement is Amazon EKS Anywhere, a new deployment option for Amazon EKS that enables you to easily create and operate Kubernetes clusters on premises, including on your own virtual machines and bare metal servers in your data center. EKS Anywhere provides an installable software package for creating and operating Kubernetes clusters on premises and automation tooling for cluster lifecycle support. EKS Anywhere creates clusters based on the EKS distro, the same Kubernetes distribution used by Amazon EKS for clusters on AWS. Customers will be able to automate cluster management, reduce support costs, and eliminate the redundant effort of having to use multiple tools for operating Kubernetes clusters. And it's fully supported by AWS. EKS Anywhere will be available in the second half of 2021. Now, let's dive a little bit deeper into EKS Anywhere. But before we do, let's start by providing a bit more details about the EKS distro. There are a couple of areas I'd like to highlight about the Amazon EKS distro. What we heard from customers is that they would like to take advantage of some of the key learnings that we've operationalized with running Kubernetes at scale. There are a lot of decisions that we make along the way for Kubernetes versions that we plan to support. The EKS distro is created using an upstream Kubernetes distribution, which runs the same compatible versions of the latest Kubernetes releases and dependencies tested by Amazon EKS to be reliable and secure. Customers benefit from a trusted and secure source for access to installable, reproducible builds of Kubernetes, for cluster creation and extended security patching support of Kubernetes versions after community support expires. Extended Kubernetes maintenance support will be provided for up to 14 months in accordance with the Amazon EKS version lifecycle policy, providing customers a time frame necessary to update their infrastructure in alignment with their software lifecycle. Along with upstreaming security patches, we provide customers the ability to use the same versions of Kubernetes that we use in EKS, including the decisions that we make along the way, such as what security patches should be included. Customers can subscribe to an SNS topic to be notified when new versions are available, removing the requirement for customers to track version releases for Kubernetes and each dependency. Customers will be able to leverage the SNS notification system, an event-driven trigger, to begin workflow to adopt the new EKS distro versions. So let's talk about EKS Anywhere. With EKS Anywhere, we will provide tooling to enable customers to automate Kubernetes cluster lifecycle management on their existing infrastructure in their data centers. Customers can create and operate their Kubernetes clusters on premises using consistent tooling as their clusters on AWS, reducing the complexity and cost of managing these very different environments. EKS Anywhere on-premises clusters run the EKS distro, the same version of Kubernetes as EKS clusters in AWS, with the latest software updates and extended security patches. To remove the complexity, EKS Anywhere will provide an opinionated installation of the EKS distro comprising of open source software that is fully supported by AWS. We will also provide customers with automation tooling optimized for on-premises environments, which simplifies the Kubernetes cluster installation and enables them to do things like centrally backup, recover, patch, upgrade their clusters with minimal disruption. With EKS Anywhere, AWS customers can modernize their existing applications running on-premise and transition to the cloud at their own pace. Now, let's talk about some of the key design principles behind EKS Anywhere, starting with consistent tooling. Customers asked us to reduce the complexity of operating Kubernetes clusters across their on-premises and cloud environments. With EKS Anywhere, we provide consistent tooling to allow customers to create and operate EKS clusters, deploy workloads. We provide a common observability framework along with a unified security posture. Cluster operators and application developers can use the EKS dashboard as a hub to centrally organize, visualize, and troubleshoot all of their Kubernetes applications running across their on-premises and AWS environment. Amazon EKS integration with existing AWS services such as Systems Manager, App Mesh, Elastic Container Registry, and managed logging and monitoring tools allows us to extend these capabilities to on-premises and enable customers to centralize management, security, observability across all their clusters running in all their environments. The second design principle is our commitment to open source. With EKS Anywhere, our goal is to double down on our commitment to the Kubernetes open source community. Starting with the EKS distro, which is based on upstream Kubernetes, to the Kubernetes components we plan to ship as part of our tooling that are based on open source projects. And finally, to making the EKS Anywhere tooling available as open source and giving back to the community and bringing our engineering strength and ideas to the table to support areas of collaboration across open source project initiatives. The third design principle is our approach to GitOps. EKS Anywhere will provide an operating model that enables customers to use Git as a single source of truth for the desired state of their Kubernetes clusters running across all their environments, including on-premises and AWS. This GitOps-driven approach will provide three key benefits for our customers. Number one, a unique and consistent experience for cluster creation, cluster management, and cluster operations across all their EKS environments, which includes EKS in the cloud and on-premises. This ultimately reduces the complexity and operations costs associated with managing very different environments without having to use disparate tools for each environment. Number two, stronger security and compliance by using Git to centrally define policies that are enforceable with audit tracing. And last but not least, number three, increasing developer velocity by enabling cluster operators, security admins, and developers to better collaborate via a self-service experience, treating Kubernetes clusters as ephemeral resources to meet the needs of developers based on their use case requirements. Using EKS Anywhere, customers will benefit from a consistent and repeatable model for creating, managing, and operating EKS clusters across on-premises and AWS. Now, let's talk a little bit about the EKS Anywhere architecture. With EKS Anywhere, we are implementing a shared responsibility model, and both the EKS control plane and EKS worker nodes run on customer-managed infrastructure. We plan to support both bare metal and vSphere deployment options on top of customer-managed infrastructure. You simply provide EKS Anywhere with either a physical node or virtual instances with layer 2 networking enabled so that physical nodes and virtual instances can talk to each other, and EKS Anywhere will layer on top. Customers will have the choice to bring their own node operating system licenses or leverage one of our bundled offerings. Once a cluster is created, the entire EKS operational experience will be Git-driven and consistent across on-premises and AWS. A Git controller will run on each cluster that allows customers to version control and manage the cluster lifecycle using Git. That's right. With EKS Anywhere, you can use the same consistent tooling to operate EKS clusters and workloads running in your on-premises and AWS environments. In an earlier slide, we touched on the fact that the EKS Anywhere clusters would provide an opinionated installation of the EKS distro. Let's talk a little bit more about this. EKS Anywhere will ship with an installer and a command line interface. A local API will be available to create an opinionated EKS distro that includes optional defaults consistent with Amazon EKS for things like node operating system, container runtime, container network interface, ingress, storage classes, and observability. By including pre-configured defaults with EKS Anywhere clusters, we believe that customers will benefit from reduced complexity and automate cluster configuration associated with creating and operating clusters in the environment that their applications are running in. You can also customize any part of the Kubernetes stack by bringing your own node operating system, service load balancer, or choice of ingress. We also want to make it super easy for customers to consume AWS services, such as pull container images from Amazon ECR, leverage Bootstrap application workloads from Container Registry, deploy containerized application stacks from AWS Marketplace, connect EKS Anywhere clusters to the EKS dashboard, snapshot backup clusters to Amazon S3, aggregate cluster logs and metrics to Amazon CloudWatch, and audit cluster configurations using services such as AWS Config. As far as on-premises deployment targets, we will provide both bare metal and vSphere support. As far as connectivity options, EKS Anywhere clusters can either run as fully connected or partially connected. Connectivity to AWS will be provided using a cluster agent that securely connects to AWS, integrated with the AWS Identity Provider. For disconnected scenarios, customers can use the EKS distro and leverage open source tools to run clusters where there is prolonged periods of disconnect. Now, how should I start using EKS Anywhere? How about a sneak peek into the getting started experience? The first step would be to download an installer and a command line interface tool. The installer is run to create a local environment to use the CLI tool to create the first Kubernetes cluster. Cluster properties such as node size, networking, storage are specified in the provided configuration files. The CLI command line interface is then used to create an EKS Anywhere cluster with the desired configurations. Once a cluster is provisioned, the cluster lifecycle can be managed and version controlled using Git. You can now easily consume AWS services such as S3 for cluster snapshots, backups, and benefit from a centralized control provided by the EKS dashboard, Systems Manager, App Mesh, and CloudWatch. When a security patch or new version of EKS becomes available, the cluster operator is notified using a variety of options such as the EKS dashboard, GitHub release channel, or an SNS topic. AWS now becomes the central place for you to run and operate your Kubernetes clusters across your on-premises and AWS environments. Now, let's look at some of the common use cases that we're enabling with EKS Anywhere. The first is training your machine learning models in the cloud and running inference at the edge. You can train your ML models in the cloud using AWS's managed services and use the trained models to run inference where your EKS Anywhere clusters are running. The next use case is workload migration. With EKS Anywhere, you have operational consistency across Amazon EKS, which provides a quicker on-ramp of your Kubernetes-based workloads to AWS. Then we have modernization. EKS Anywhere empowers you to modernize your applications running on-premises and more easily transition to AWS. Another very common use case we hear about is data sovereignty. Some customers have applications that need to run on-premises due to regulatory, latency, and data residency requirements, or cases where they have to use existing infrastructure. EKS Anywhere helps to transition the stateless parts of these applications to the cloud while keeping the data in place. Last but not least is bursting. Seasonal workloads can require a lot of compute for days or even weeks. Being able to burst into the cloud provides temporary capacity. With EKS Anywhere, you can now manage your workloads across on-premises and the cloud consistently and cost-effectively. Amazon EKS customers get the benefit of a fully supported experience for their EKS clusters running on-premises and on AWS. This includes well-architected reviews by our solutions architects to ensure your environment is ready to handle mission-critical workloads, 24/7 support with our support engineers, and a rich partner ecosystem that can support and help you adopt Amazon EKS and provide the assistance you're looking for along the way for full operations experience across all your environments. In summary, with the addition of EKS Anywhere, Amazon EKS now works with any compute capacity, whether in an AWS region, Amazon Wavelength, Amazon Outposts, or on your existing hardware, whether it's bare metal or virtualized in your on-premises environment. Next steps. If you're interested in learning more, you can navigate to our product pages for EKS Anywhere and EKS Distro, visit and learn more about our offering. As I mentioned earlier, EKS Distro is available now. EKS Anywhere will launch in the second half of 2021. We also plan a preview. We will announce a preview in early 2021, so feel free to sign up for our early access program. Thank you very much. Hope you enjoyed this talk. And please don't forget to fill out the surveys. Thank you.